Hello, everybody. In Janwaar, which is a small village in rural Madhya Pradesh, we've built a skate park. We call it Janwaar Castle. Building a skate park might seem like, a little small intervention, but it turned out to be much, much more. Janwaar Castle has really, pushed this village into life. It has broken taboos, had overcome barriers, and today I would say it has become a symbol for sweeping, far-reaching change. Like probably any other village in India, Janwaar was deeply divided by caste. There were the Adivasi, the outcast, and the Yadav, who dominated the village. So it wasn't a big surprise when the skate park was built that the Yadav boys were the first ones to come there. But this has slowly changed. One day I came there and there was at the far end of the park, there was this little Adivasi boy, Ramkesh, sitting. He was sitting there for hours just watching what the others were doing at the skate park. He was completely entranced in what he saw. He was just in awe. But he would never ever dare to ask one of the Yadav guys to hand him over a skateboard. Next day, same thing. Kept sitting there at the far end just watching. On the third day, when he came back, I walked over and I said, "You want to give it a try?" So he looked at me, he smiled, he nodded. I walked over to a Yadav guy, took a skateboard. He wasn't so happy to give it away. I gave it to Ramkesh. And, this guy, he had just taken the skateboard. He looked at it and he started running. He dropped the board. He jumped on it and it was just almost like sailing away. This guy really was a natural born skateboarder, and today he's one of our best skateboarders, and he comes every day to the park. The ice between the caste finally broke one morning during our yoga sessions. We always start with a big, big circle. And there was this little girl, I think she was probably 3 years old. She was dirty like hell, she was standing there, and no one would include her in the circle. So I reached out, and the moment I did, Sepi, one of our Yadav boys, he walked with me. Both of us, we took her hand, we included her in the circle, and from this day onward, at least at the skate park, I would say the issue of caste never ever showed its ugly face again. India probably has 700,000 villages. 60 to 70% of your population is living there. And most of these people, I don't know how many of you have been into these small villages, they really struggle to survive. They hardly have any electricity, they have no sanitation, health issues are really huge. And even though on the other side, you always hear that, a lot of government programs, a lot of government schemes are in place, a lot of NGOs are working there, and still the change there is not visible, is not tangible. Why is this so? I believe that most of these programs, let it be government, let it be NGO, they are almost like predefined products. They are made for the villagers, for the children, not with them. They are based upon this clear distinction between those who know and those who need to be taught. So there is no involvement of the people who at the end of the day should use these solutions they are not involved in the creation process of this solution. And this is exactly what we do differently at Janwaar Castle. Our approach, and this is also where the little tiny we in our logo comes in, is very clearly a community approach. We include all the stakeholders in the village, and whatever we do, we co-create and collaborate with actually very innovative management tools together with the villagers. So during this process, these villagers, these kids, they take responsibility, they take ownership of the solution, and this is why usually whatever we design has a very high acceptance rate. When I first came into Janwaar, this is like 2.5 years ago, I was very hesitant. I didn't want to go, actually, because, you know, Panna, this is the next bigger town, probably 2 lakh people living there. It's already kind of at the end of the world. So why would I even go further? Janwaar is 670 kilometers off the main road from Panna. But I went there, and when I arrived, I instinctively felt, wow, this is the right place. Because when I was standing there on this small little hill overlooking the 1 acre of land where we would later build the skate park on, I saw really everything what became kind of close to my heart over the last couple of years when I'm driving on my bullet bike through the heart of India. It was kind of wild, it was kind of rough, looked still very, very innocent, and it was really beautiful. So I really knew that I had found the place. 3 months later, we started to build the skate park. 3.5 months later, the skate park was built. During the process, there were various dynamics inside the village. Since I don't speak the language and I'm not intending to learn, you know, all these potential problems somehow stood away from me. The villagers, of course, came because we gave them employment. They got paid on a daily basis, so why wouldn't they come? But the kids were with us from the very first day. When we had poured the first ramp of the skate park, and when it was tried out, they used it as a slide. So they were immediately involved. We had our grand opening almost exactly 2 years ago. It was in April 2015. The grand opening was nothing but that I handed over 20 skateboards. To each skateboard, we had a set of helmets and safety gears. And this was it. I didn't leave, but there were also no instructors. There were no teachers. We didn't have any lessons. You know, I only told the kids, you need to take care of these skateboards, and you have to share them. For me, it was amazing to see how fast these kids were learning. It was really surprisingly fast. There were little teams built. You know, the older kids were helping the younger kids, the better skilled, the lesser skilled, and really those much wanted principles of co-creation and collaboration were put into place by children. It wasn't ordained from top. It simply happened, and everything really, really grew very organically. So the change we saw, what everything happened, was really made by the kids. I would say that Janwaar somehow is smiling. Janwaar is, since the skate park has arrived, in some kind of transformation mode. And the major change makers are these kids. without even realizing that they are. I'm going to give you two examples. One is Asha. Asha is a 17-year-old Adivasi girl. She attended our first summer camp, which we did in summer 2015, and she was very, very eager to learn English. So every day she came to the English lessons. We had a Teach for India fellow there. So she came and she was really, really engaged. And after these 4 weeks, she really spoke pretty well English. She could address, what she wanted to say, and somehow I felt that we should give her something in reward. So I asked her, Asha, do you want to go to England to learn better English? And she said, yes, of course. And she smiled. So I went back home to her parents and I asked her parents if they would be ready to let her go. And they simply said no. So it was a process over 8 months. Going back, going forth. I brought in the Maharaj of Panna. I brought in her very best teachers. I brought in friends of mine who were somehow trying to convince her parents to let her go, to have a different kind of exposure, and then, might look into a brighter future. They simply said no. One day I was standing with a friend in the heat of the sun in June in the fields, and I was talking to her mother. My friend, he was translating everything, what I was saying in English into Hindi, and by looking at them, I all of a sudden realized, if I would speak to this woman, to Asha's mother in German, it would have been the same effect. She didn't even understand his words. She didn't know what it means going to London or going to UK. For them, it's simply very, very far away, and it's taking the kid away. So this was the day when we changed our conversation. And when I was trying then to convince them that Asha could learn English, could stay with us in the village, and then, become my voice and a role model for other girls in the village and keep on what we are doing. This was the day where at least then the parents changed their minds, and Asha's persistence, I in between thought this would go nowhere, but Asha's persistence really kept me going, and after 8 months, the parents finally agreed and said, we let her go. They also agreed at the same time not to marry her off when she's coming back, and really let her accept a job, probably with our organization, and really work in the village. So this was really an individual path Asha has taken, starting from the summer camp, going almost these 8-9 months, and now we actually applied 3 days ago for the visa in Delhi. She was the first one in Janwaar to get a passport, and this was a big thing. First of all, Adivasi girl, Adivasi, second, a girl. This has never ever happened in this village before. So this was a big, big thing. Another example is Shivraj. He finished 8th grade. He couldn't read and write. He just, basically, he probably would have dropped out from 9th grade. His parents also didn't have the money to send him somehow. But at the skate park, this guy really developed his social skills. He became the silent leader, and whenever someone was needed, he was simply there for us without being asked. So when I had the chance for a scholarship, for me, it was a very easy thing to select him and to let him take this scholarship. The problem was what to do with him, because he was lacking all the kind of skills you would need when you apply to a 9th grade school anywhere in India. So we designed a very individual program together with a couple of partners we were working with. It is headed by a very nice school in Noida, The name is Prakriti. And I think he will finish in May his first year. He really got a very individualized program. He spent 6 months in the school in Delhi. For another 3 months, he went to a Kisan school, because farming is for these kids a very, very essential thing. 80–90% of the kids do work in the fields, in the villages. So he learned more about farming, and currently he's at an art school 2 hours away from our skate park, and he's really enjoying his time and understanding what learning can be good for. So these 2 examples, and I could give you another 10, show pretty much what we do at Janwaar. We really put the kid, the single kid, in the center of everything we do. And these kids, no matter what they do, they never ever have to ask for permission. They can simply go, and they can simply do. Nevertheless, we have, right from the beginning, created 2 rules which helped us, I think, to move much faster than we expected. These 2 rules, where the first one is no school, no skateboarding. The second one is girls first. No school, no skateboarding has basically swamped the kids into the school. Our best 20–25 skateboarders, they go regularly to school now. Another 20, they show up on a more frequent basis. And the guy who is our best skateboarder, he never ever went to school before, but when he heard about the rule, he said, I'm going to be topper at school pretty soon, school attendance topper. And he sure is. The teachers keep telling us that the overall awareness of the kids is pretty high. Motivation is at an all-time high. The kids are now eager to learn, and they are really, really challenging the teachers. The rule girls first, we put into play because in this part of the world, the standing of the girls is very bad. Actually, in the village itself, they wouldn't hesitate to kill a girl by the time of birth because she's probably the 3rd or 4th girl. They cannot afford to pay the dowry. So girls have no place in this society. So we were thinking about some kind of way how to implement this gender inequality in our daily activities, and this girls first thing is really working. No matter how small the girl is or how big the guy is, if the girl comes to the skate park and says girls first, she will always get a skateboard. As I said earlier, Janwaar, the village itself, with all these things happening, the kids traveling abroad, the kids going to different places, visitors are coming in from all over the world. Janwaar, the village itself, is really out of balance. We have disrupted this village. And disruption is a pretty interesting thing, because on one hand, you're really eager, you are curious about the unknown, while at the same time you're a little bit scary and frightened, to embrace it. So this kind of tension really makes people move. And you need this kind of movement to start change. And this is where we come in. We are not telling the villagers or the kids what to do. We simply guide them once they started to move. And we see our roles also not in defining where they go, but simply helping them to find their own way while they walk. Janwaar Castle, the concept, is still pretty young. We are only there for 2 years now. So it's far too early to draw any kind of conclusions. But what I can clearly say is that this model of, the art of letting go, not asking for permissions, everyone is equal, that this kind of model has the power to disrupt the village, to unbalance it, and, to make the people move forward and find their own way. For us, my dream is, or my work will end when we no longer have to disrupt them to make the move. I would say the villagers, and especially the kids, they now have a dream of a better future for their own. They have stopped to exist. They really have started living. They stopped to survive. They started thriving. And once in a while, when I drive the last 4 kilometers off the main road down to Janwaar, I think about this African proverb, which says, it takes a village to raise a child. I think in Janwaar we have created our own version of it. We truly say it takes the children to transform a village. Thank you.